Hello, everyone. Welcome to the first episode of my podcast, Diaries of a 20-something. I am so excited about this new chapter of my life. And this episode is titled Thrown into the Trenches of Adulthood because I'm sure some of you may know, some of you may not. I just graduated college from the University of Florida, and it is definitely a very interesting part of a person's life. So I am your host. I am Paige Marquez. Like I said, I just graduated from the University of Florida, and I have a lot of experience in the lifestyle writing field. I'm a journalism major, or was a journalism major. It's so weird to even say that. But yeah, I've been wanting to start a podcast for a really long time, and now, I'm in the period of my life where I don't really know what's next, and I have a lot of free time, so I'm like, why not now? I am unemployed. I still haven't found a job. I probably won't for a while. What are you gonna do? So, like I said, I did graduate from the University of Florida. If you know, it is a school in Gainesville, Florida. It's a very big football school, which was really important for me when deciding what school I wanted to go to. It was just a very typical Southern Greek life school. And I did have a good college experience. I'm not sure how it compares to others, not that that even matters, but I did have a good college experience and I am very grateful for it. I was in a sorority for majority of my college experience. It was never really my thing for the entirety of it. It was kind of trying to fit into a mold that wasn't me. Don't we all do that at some point in our lives? I feel like you learn so much about yourself when you're trying to fit into a mold that just doesn't fit. That was really interesting, and I will probably do another episode fully on my college experience, specifically Greek life, because that was just a trip. But like graduating as a whole was a really weird experience. My family came up, my dad, my sister, my mom, and my best friend Elizabeth. It was definitely a very interesting weekend. When we drove up, the one rule that I made for the car, I was like, we're not talking about graduation. We're just not doing it. I had like a lot of anxiety because when I finished college, when I finished all my classes and everything, I came home for a week before graduation, and then I just drove up with my family. So, like my apartment was already packed up. I was ready to go. And then when we were driving up, the anxiety really started to hit me. It was more of realization, because when I was home, I was hanging out with friends like every day. I wasn't really thinking about it. And then driving up, it was really like, wow, I'm really graduating. Like, this is really it. Like, I'm going to be done with school. Like when it comes to even like grad school, I'm very undecided on that. If it's meant to be, it'll be. But for that graduation weekend, I specifically remember we drove up the day before I graduated. And we went out to dinner at my favorite place in Gainesville, Florida. It's called Oak, or Original American Kitchen, whatever you want to call it. Great food, great cocktails, just a superb environment. I feel like it's always interesting because my parents are divorced, I feel like it's always interesting when your two parents who don't really communicate get in the same room. And I remember I was so worried about that. I was so worried that, what if they don't get along? Like, what if there's fighting? Like, I just didn't want to deal with that on that weekend. And, like my sister, she goes to school at FAU down in Boca, so it's not far from here. So she's been out to dinner with my parents, but I haven't really in a really long time. I was just a little bit nervous, but everything was fine. It was great. And then after dinner, we went back to the Airbnb, and my mom actually rented the same Airbnb that she did when she moved me in for college, which I thought was so cute and full circle. I didn't really remember the Airbnb because I just stayed in my dorm pretty much. But once I got there, I was like, oh yeah, I remember this place. I'm about to tell you guys a story that I hope I will never have to experience again. Right before I graduated, we were at the Airbnb. It was probably like, Jesus, I don't even know what time it was. Maybe like 10:30. It was late. And I had to be up at 6 in the morning to like get ready because I had to be at the ceremony by 7:30 a.m. What is that, first of all? But anyway, so we're sitting down, we're all playing a nice little family game of Monopoly. I don't know really what happened. I think it was all hitting me in that one moment because, like I said, the week before, even the months prior to graduation, I was like, I wasn't in denial, but I just wasn't thinking about it. I didn't want to think about it. I was like, you know what? Screw this. I was also tired. My sister didn't want to play anymore. And I was like, I don't either. Like, I just need to go to bed because I just needed to sleep it off because I was so anxious. I was like sick. I stand up and I'm not even kidding when I tell you guys, I literally threw up in my mouth. And I was like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. When I tell you I ran to the bathroom, I have never ran to the bathroom like that in my life. Barely made it. It was just coming out of me. I didn't even know that anxiety attacks could be that bad. Yeah, like I have anxiety. I think a lot of people do. It's totally normal, but I've never had anxiety come out so physically before. And it was honestly traumatizing because I was throwing up for probably I don't even know. See, I don't even know really what time it was, but I want to say it was at least a couple hours. And it was like so bad that I was like paralyzed. Like I couldn't move. Like my sister, my mom, and Elizabeth had to like carry me upstairs. Like I couldn't move. Like it was like I wanted to move, my body was limp. I was just like dead weight. And it was just awful, like completely awful. Anyway, by the time that was over, I was so exhausted. I literally just passed out. It wasn't difficult for me. It got to the point where towards the end of it, I was falling asleep while I was throwing up. It was vile. And I hope I never experience anything like that again. But flash forward to the morning of, which in reality was probably like 5 hours later. Got up, barely put on any makeup because, you know what it's like when you're throwing up all night or whatever. And the next day, you are just sick. I was exhausted. I was dehydrated. I looked awful, which was really unfortunate because I really wanted to look good, but whatever, that didn't end up happening. I remember we were sitting in the car and I was like, I don't want to go in because I was meeting up with my friend Natalie before graduation because we do it by school at UF. So like everybody in the journalism communication school was graduating that day. And I was like, I can't go in alone because, I was having a mini anxiety attack in the car with Reagan and Elizabeth in a very calm and collected way. Like I was just having a very silent breakdown. And I was like, I can't go in unless Natalie is here. So Natalie gets there. We walk in together, everything is fine. Once I'm with Natalie, I'm like, okay, I feel better. We're not even like best friends, but we're friends and we've known each other since freshman year. So she was somebody that I'm comfortable around. But like we're getting in line, ready to walk the stage, whatever. And I had this irrational fear. Maybe it's not irrational. I don't know. But I had this fear of falling, tripping while I walked the stage. Like I was a nervous wreck about it. I was like, I can't fall. This would be so embarrassing. Like in addition to just walking the stage, there was like a big jumbotron in the middle of the stadium or arena. I don't even know what you call it. So everybody would be able to see it if you fell. Like everybody. And I was like, this is not good. So Natalie asked me, she was like, can you go first? I was like, honestly, yes, because I need to get this over with as quickly as possible. Like I need to just go home. I don't like this. I'm like getting nervous just talking about it because it was so horrifying. And I'm not a person that's like camera shy or crowd shy, but I don't know what it was. It was just horrifying because I'm sitting there, we're all in a single file line. It felt like waiting to be executed or something. It was horrifying. and, then they call my name. I blacked out. Like, I don't remember walking the stage at all. Like, I was having so much anxiety before that I literally, like, I was, like, faint. I was like, "I'm gonna drop right now, like, this is not okay." But I walked the stage. I didn't fall, so that's fantastic, and as soon as it was over, I was so happy. I was like, "Thank God, I never have to do this again." Like, like, if it was fully up to me, I wouldn't have gone to graduation, but I couldn't do that to my parents. I'm officially done with college now, and it's definitely very weird transitioning into your adult life because I feel like there's no right way to do it in this period because it's so hard when you're seeing everybody else in your age group or like your friends or whatever, like they're all doing different things on like their new adult path. And it's really hard to not compare your path to theirs. And that's something that I've been really struggling with a lot. Just like the pressure of post grad, because you're looking for a job, nobody will hire you because you don't have experience, but then you can't get experience without a real job. And, when I graduated college, like I have a lot of experience in the lifestyle writing field. I've been interning at the same place for over a year and a half now. I'm like very confident in my skills, but at the same time, the amount of jobs available for people in lifestyle writing are very, very small. It's a very niche field of journalism. And, like there's so many opportunities for reporting and like digital content creation, which like I could do. But when it comes to lifestyle writing and just like being in like the fashion industry, which is where I want to end up, it's very competitive and it's very hard because there are so limited spots available for each position. And even like each publication, like most publications don't even have that kind of sector. So it sucks and it's anxiety inducing. And I have no idea what I'm doing with my life, but it's okay. Like it's literally okay. And getting to that point of realizing it's okay, you will survive is really tough. It's tough. I don't even really wanna retire. I love what I do. I love it. And, like, I just love sharing my life in any form, like video or writing or, like, whatever the case may be. Like, I just love turning my life into my job. And that's, like, what I've been doing, but, you know, nobody really cares what I do at the end of the day, and that is the problem. But, like, when it comes to, like, being an adult, I know, when you turn 18, you're an adult, but I feel like the meaning of being an adult is a lot different than just the legal meaning of it, like, because there are moments where I really do feel like an adult, and then there's still moments now where I still feel like a kid, you know? I'm living at home, which I don't mind doing at all because it's not like, I have a curfew or anything. It's just more like I wish I could just start my life already and, like, get on my feet and, like, get comfortable. Because it's like the longer it takes for me to start working, the less confident I'm becoming in my skills, because I'm, like, forgetting about things that I'm learning about or that I learned about. It's nerve-wracking and it's not fun. But, like, the moments where I really feel like an adult is, like, when I'm, like, thinking about money, because in college, everything was paid for. I got an allowance. I did work for some periods of college, but not really. And everything was paid for, I didn't have to worry about it, and it's not even like I really need to worry about it now because, like I said, I'm living at home. It's more of like, not that I have to, but I want to. Like, I don't like using my parents' money, it just makes me feel, I don't know, like, really dependent, and I don't like that. But it's also, like, once you become in this point of your life, it's like thinking about your plan, like not the plan that your parents have for you, because it really does change, like your parents, they get you through all these stages of life, right? And then you become at this point, and then it's all on you. It's your plan, and it's your responsibility to make it into real life. It's a really interesting feeling, and I don't think it's talked about enough, which is why I really wanted to start my podcast with this episode, because I felt like this is setting the tone for the rest of it. Another really weird part about being like post grad is like just like relationships. Not like boyfriends, but I'm talking more like friendships. Like, and I guess I first kind of experienced this my junior year, because a lot of my best friends were seniors my junior year. So when they graduated, it was very tough for me, because it was like I had all these friends, and then all of a sudden I didn't have any more best friends because they all left, which like is fine. Like, do your thing. But then it's like, who do I hang out with now? So I kind of had to like branch out a little bit my senior year and get closer with other people, which was fine. It was fine. It was fun. It was worth it. But I feel like staying connected with your friends after college is very hard. Even like my best friends that graduated before me, I don't talk to them as much as I really wish I did. I miss them all the time, and we always said that we would like try and plan trips together and stuff, but like it's a lot harder to plan trips than like you would think, because everyone has their own schedules. Everyone's in a different state or a different city. And it's just like hard to find the time to be able to turn that into, like a trip with your friends. It's also like moving back home. It's like reconnecting and deepening the connections that I had here before college. I wasn't the type of college student that came home often. Like, I came home for breaks, and that was pretty much it. And I did summer school every year, so I was pretty much never home. So now I'm like back, and I'm like, hey, remember me? It's weird. And like my friends that were in college, I just like haven't really been talking with them anymore. Like our lives aren't intertwined. They're not at the same point. So it's like hard to, I feel like, talk about anything that's relatable. Everyone's busy. Everyone's focusing on building their brand or building their career path, which is great. But like, it's weird. It almost makes the friendships feel superficial, because it's like, you think to yourself, like, oh, well, if they were my real friends, we wouldn't drift. But like, I really just don't believe that that is the case. Sometimes you grow out of friendships, and that's okay. And sometimes you grow into friendships. Like, it's totally fine. I've been graduated now for 3 weeks. So I, the pressures of post grad are so high, because you don't want to be a freeloader that's just living at your parents', but you also don't really have a choice. When I say that, I mean that no job will hire you. And sometimes you just have to turn lemons into lemonade, which is what I'm doing now with this podcast. I mean, future job would be some kind of editing, some kind of lifestyle writing. When it comes to like what I want for myself, I think it's so weird, because it changes all the time. Like when I was in college, it was set. But like now, it's kind of like my plan is not as definitive as it was before, mainly because it hasn't been going to plan. I planned to get a job out of college. I planned to not move back home, like not indefinitely at least. But like that is exactly what's happening. So my plan is kind of derailed. It's adjusting, I guess. But like, I do want to move to New York eventually and work in the fashion industry. But then again, I also wouldn't mind working for myself either, and just like building my brand online. But the first few weeks of adult life, the anxiety is really high and the pressure is really high. And I think that's where the anxiety stems from. And I think it's like really important to like have a plan, but not rely on it, because that's what I was doing. And now I feel like everything is falling apart because it hasn't gone exactly the same way. It's kind of like having a plan, but also taking it day by day, I think is really important. I really think like that's what it comes down to at the end of the day. It's also like having like short-term and long-term goals. Like long-term goal, first one that comes to my mind would be to move to New York. Short-term goal, how am I going to get there? I need many, many, many short-term goals to get there. That's what I mean when I talk about, taking it day by day. And because I feel like, regardless, I feel like if you put in 100% into anything that you're doing, everything will fall into place. At least I hope. I very much hope that that is the case. It's a very interesting time. And I think, it makes everything tricky, like friendships, even like the relationship with yourself. I mean, it makes you like lose faith in yourself a little bit and lose a lot of confidence, especially going to a school like University of Florida. Like, it's one of the best schools in the country. And I don't know, I thought because of that, finding a job wouldn't be hard, but it's like it is. And then what? What do you do then? What do you do when everything that you planned for is just not going to plan immediately? Like, graduate college, check that off my list, get a job. Still waiting. I've only gotten rejections, or I've just been ghosted. I've been cold calling and reaching out to pretty much everybody that I can reach out to in the fields that I'm interested in. And, it's like, yeah, you may be prepared. You may have all this experience that sets you apart, but there's also thousands of people who are already in the field applying for the same jobs you're applying for. Not to mention thousands of students from even better colleges than you trying to do the same thing with better grades than you, better experience, like whatever. I think when it comes to like, like any other field, like in comparison to writing, it is really hard to not take things personally. You put your blood, sweat, and tears into an article, right? You think it's fantastic. You've worked hard on it. Everyone else thinks it's fantastic. However, the one person that matters doesn't think it's fantastic. And it's not like, oh, it's a miscalculation or you just didn't do it right. It's just like they just didn't like it. They just didn't like your style. They didn't like your tone. They didn't like what you encompass as a brand. And that is what makes it so mentally draining and hard. Nobody told me about that. Like, nobody. When I went into creative writing, nobody told me about that, which is fine, whatever. But I don't know. It's like really painful. But anyway, this was the first episode of Diaries of a 20 something. And stay tuned because next week I have a very, very, very exciting episode planned. I am actually about to start packing right after this, and we are going to New Jersey. And you guys are going to meet my mom, and we're going to talk about all things mother-daughter. And I think I'm going to do a vlog style podcast next week. But this one, it was really important for me to just sit down and just talk to you guys one-on-one and just really talk about the things that have been happening in my life to set the tone for, this podcast, just to tell you guys a little about who I am and who I want to be. So like, share, subscribe. You guys know the drill. I'm sure you guys heard it all before. And thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys next Friday.